So welcome to my review of Ys 9 Monstrum Nox on the Nintendo Switch. We've finally gotten to that release, it's finally coming out, and I played it, and I'm going to show a lot of the graphical differences and all of that. I just want to say that it's a spoiler-free review. I'm not going to talk about any story elements, and also, I've already reviewed the game on the PS4. I gave some first thoughts, and I gave a major final thoughts, and I went into the entire game and what I think about it, and I'm going to be going over that today as well, but I'm going to be talking about the performance of the Nintendo Switch compared to, say, the PS4 version and the enhanced PS5 version. So it's a good place to start. Let's start with the graphics here, and how are the graphics on the Nintendo Switch version, which everybody wants to know. They're not bad. The graphics are not bad. Obviously, it's going to take a bit of a hit in the res department. We honestly knew that was going to happen. For anybody that played the Lacrimosa of Donna on the PS4 and then they played the Switch version, there is going to be a hit with the graphical look of the game. Obviously, the PS4 version is the optimized way to play it. I haven't played the PC version, and the ultimate optimized version is the PS5 enhanced version, and that really is a showstopper in 4K. It looks gorgeous. But what do we got here in the Nintendo Switch? We have an adequate port. It's an adequate port, and I want to say that NISA says that on day one of the game getting released, there's a big patch to help with what is going on here. And what we have here is obviously the frame rate at times can completely drop, and so I played both versions and I'm going to compare them. I'm going to show you guys like certain aspects. Obviously the resolution, as I say, takes a hit for sure compared to like the PS4 version, but it handles pretty good. And then you get into the city, and this is where I started to see the major drops, and I really hope this gets patched, because as you're running through the city, it's chugging along at times when there's quite a few people around, and it's drawing out the entire city. So that's one place I really noticed it. But I gotta say this, in the dungeons, as I'm playing those, I thought they handled absolutely fine. I think this is an adequate port that is taking a hit on the resolution and on the frame rates. So know that going in. And if you have a Nintendo Switch, is it okay? Is it playable? Absolutely, it is playable and it's enjoyable. And I had a good time playing the Switch version. Would I honestly play the Switch version over PS5 version? Probably not, but if I only had the Switch version, I wouldn't be unhappy. It is definitely playable, as Lacrimosa of Donna was on the Switch. And as for story, we have Adol, our main hero in every single game, coming to the city of Barduk, a city with a mysterious past, and when he gets to the city, he's wrongly accused and put into prison. And that's where we begin the story, and then Adol becomes part of the Monstrum, a mysterious group of individuals in the city itself trying to free the lands. And that's how our story begins, and there we go into a long, exciting, and epic journey across the land. And I've said it before, I'm saying it again, when I first played the game on PS4, I played the Japanese version, I was like, oh, does the entire game take place in the city? Because it feels that way when you start playing the game, and you're like, it's just a lot of the city and a lot of dungeons within the city, and you're like, can I get out of here? Can I get out of here? I just want to say, yes, you do eventually get out, and there's some beautiful locations to visit later on in the game, so don't worry, you're not just in the city. And you're introduced to a lot of characters throughout the game. Most of them you meet within the city itself. You get to know them, and you forge very good relationships with these characters. My only gripe, and I've said it in my original review, is there's just a little too much dialogue at times. Characters blabbering on things that are not highly relevant. Where it's just like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Oh, did you go out into the city today? Yes, I did. And you're like, okay, can we just get to the main chunk of the story? It just feels that there's a lot of endless dialogue that goes on, and you're like, is it over yet? Sometimes that's how you do feel, but it doesn't detract from the story, and the story does have some twists and turns as you get near the end. And how long is this game? For me, in my first playthrough, it was around 32 hours, but there's a bunch of different difficulty settings, so you can turn it up, and to be honest with you, there's a lot to explore, there's a lot to unlock, so you could really get 40 to 60 hours out of this game. Gameplay is where the game shines the most. The game is fun. It's fun in its action RPG combat. And the thing that I like the most in this game is that Adol, our main character, can use other Monstrum's abilities. And I don't need to use their characters. I can use their abilities. And I really love that. So it's a way to traverse the city with different abilities and different ways to defeat your enemies. And I thought that was implemented very, very well. And I really saw how this game was influenced a little bit by Breath of the Wild. And that's what I want to say about this game is the action RPG combat is super fun. Fighting monsters and using your special abilities, it's fun. You just end up doing that over and over, and it never gets boring. It never gets boring. In some games, you do a little bit of that and it gets boring. These games, they shine this way. They do. And I never got bored from the minute I started playing till the end of the game. The action RPG combat is excellent and one of the highlights of the game. And we get to the music. The music is good. It's decent. Is it the best ever Ys music? No. And how can it be? Because Ys has, set the level so high for what Ys music is, and there's some other Ys games that have incredibly unbelievable music. I think this music is good. Is it as good as past Ys games? Probably not. I don't know how much I'll be listening to it going forward, but it's not bad, and it sets the pace very well for telling the story, and by no means is it bad. So what can I say about my final thoughts for the Nintendo Switch version? I think it's a pretty competent version. It has some problems with frame rates. It has some problems with resolution. We knew that going in, and you have to know that going in. They say there's a patch coming. I have not played that patch, so I cannot say how we will fix anything. But right now, there is some frame rate issues for sure, and especially running around that city. But as I say, going through some of the dungeons and fighting monsters, you don't really feel it. And especially in handheld mode, I was playing that and it looked really good. I was not disappointed with that at all. It didn't feel chuggy or anything terrible. It's just when you get to some open environments with many characters on the screen, it can drop quite a bit. But honestly, Ys 9 is an excellent game into itself. If you only have a Nintendo Switch, I mean, it's all right. I think you'll do okay with this. It kind of reminds me of the port, as they say, of the Lacrimosa of Donna. So if you like that port, you're going to get a lot more of that here as well. And I just love the Ys series in general. Honestly, I have ordered the special edition of the game for the Nintendo Switch. And I want it, and I'm putting it on the shelf, and I'm definitely backing it because I like Ys games. And if I was going to pick one system to play it on, it'd be the PS5 with the updated graphics in 4K. That looks stunning, and that's the optimal way to play it. But if you have a Nintendo Switch, I think it's an okay way to go. So anyways, guys, until next time.